I've made so many dumb purchases over the years, and some of them cost me a lot of money, even though I absolutely could not afford them at the time. If I hadn't stopped, I'm convinced I would have been in horrendous debt right now, but thankfully, I did stop. And I learned some valuable lessons that I want to pass on to you today that I think will improve your fashion choices, your finances, and your overall happiness. So I'm going to talk you through what I bought, my flawed thinking at the time, and what I do differently today that might help you if you're in a similar situation. For the longest time, I would go out and buy things purely because I liked the look of them, which is fine, but I gave absolutely zero consideration to whether they actually suited me. My best example of this is when I started my channel actually, when the long line trend paired with drop crotch pants was in. I loved the look of it on other people, and was determined to make it work for me, but because I've got a naturally high waistline, it just didn't suit my body type at all. It made my legs look super short and pulled me all out of proportion. You could tell I was fighting against my natural body shape. I also did this to an extent with baggy clothes as well. I loved the look of super oversized baggy clothes on other people, but for me with a skinny frame, it never looked quite right. It definitely can look good on the right person, but for me it was a disaster. And so all those clothes I bought that didn't suit my body type became a complete waste of time and money. Because even though I liked the designs and the fit in theory, I never liked the way it looked on me, so I never wore them. It's taken me all these years to realize I need to work with what I've got. I'm quite skinny with a high waistline, so I look to accentuate those features. Not in an obnoxious way, but I maybe wear tops with a slimmer to regular cut, and bottoms that have a slightly higher rise so they sit at my natural waistline. These small changes have made me so much more confident in what I'm wearing and what I should buy. There's hardly any clothes I've bought over the past few years that fit poorly now, which has resulted in so much less waste. The next thing that was keeping me broke is something I'm sure we've all done. I was trying too hard to keep up with trends. A specific example of this, from my point of view, was the Saint Laurent Wyatt boots. They had a massive moment during the peak Fear of God times, and even beyond that, and I was absolutely set on getting them no matter what, even though I couldn't really afford them and was never totally convinced by them. Don't get me wrong, I actually think they're lovely looking shoes. And they're not like a crazy one-off design. They've got a fairly classic shape and silhouette that still works today. Plus, they were really well made. But I should never have gotten them. The only reason I did want them is purely because they were on trend. I was seeing them everywhere, and obviously the more I looked at them, the more the algorithm fed me that same type of content. And I was obsessed with being part of the trend at all times. But then when I got them and the hype wore off, I just didn't wear them. They sat in their box unused for months on end. And because I spent so much money on them, I refused to sell them because I knew I'd make a loss and I didn't want to face that. These days, sure, I can still be swayed by a trend every now and then. We're not all perfect. But I'm taking my time to consider whether I actually like them or not. And even if I do like them, I'm not about to drop a bag on them like I did with the Wyatt boots. Alright, next up is a true blast from the past. It's the constant clothing hauls I used to get. At some point, I've probably claimed that they were necessary because I own a YouTube channel and Instagram account. But the truth is, I was purchasing clothing hauls pretty much every week way before I started recording myself. It was a genuine behavioural issue. I'd get a strange satisfaction from hitting that purchase button and knowing I owned all of those clothes. And when you combine it with the last point of me wanting to jump on every trend, it was a pretty nasty and expensive combination. But the hauls weren't even from decent places. It was usually some cheap fast fashion, like ASOS's in-house brand or H&M. Individually, the pieces were cheap and pretty nasty by the way, but when you think that I was buying 5 to 10 things almost every week, it soon adds up. My wardrobe was spilling out with cheap clothes, most of which were unused and still had tags on, because there just wasn't enough time in the day to wear everything. If you follow my channel these days, hopefully you can see that I've gone pretty much the opposite direction now. I might still do small hauls for special collections or brands I really like, but they're few and far between. 90% of the time I'll wait it out and really consider whether I actually need those items or not. Next is a huge one for me. I used to buy everything full price, no matter what. And I guess that comes along with some of the other points in this video, because when you want to be the first on trend or get that satisfaction from a haul, you're not worrying about price, you just want to have the thing ASAP. And I used to actually physically go into shops a lot back in the day, which meant you had to pay the price they had there and then. And I dread to think just how much money I wasted by not having a bit of patience and waiting for a sale. These days you can of course shop around online for the best price, find coupons, get cashback, etc. Yes, there is a risk if you wait it out that the thing you want might sell out. And if it's a special piece or limited collection that you can't miss out on, then paying full price is probably the only answer. But with a lot of brands who have a core collection that restocks every year, I will happily wait a few months for a Black Friday or New Year's Day sale to get a cheaper price. It might not even be that much, but it all adds up, and I think it's beneficial as a whole to practice restraint from time to time. It's definitely done wonders for my wallet. Now, on the topic of sales, another thing I used to always do was buy things purely because they were discounted. It didn't matter if I actually wanted them or not. If they had that little percentage discount next to their name, I'd convince myself it was worth the money and that I'd never find it at a better price. Going into clothing sales without a plan is dangerous for someone like me who's quite impulsive. I knew when the sales were going to happen, but I didn't think much about what pieces I was going to try and get. So in the end, anything I slightly liked the look of would go in the basket, with not much consideration for whether they would actually fit me or my style. Meaning I ended up with loads of random single items that didn't really work well together. And of course that led to me almost never wearing them and wasting so much money. Right, the next one is kind of fashion adjacent, and it's the amount of money I was spending on expensive hair products. For some people, hair products are a must. It can totally help or transform the way they style their hair. But for me, what I've learned over the years, that my hair is just so stubborn and it's going to do its own thing no matter what. Obviously, not much of a problem right now, but it did take me so long to accept this. I was spending loads of money on exotic and expensive products to try and make my hair look different. But of course it never worked, or if it did, it lasted for like 30 minutes and then it would just go back to normal. And that seems to be a running theme in this video. Working so hard against your body's natural preferences is expensive and mostly fruitless. The only thing that did actually change my hair was when I got the Korean perm, which I kind of missed to be honest. And it makes sense because it's chemically changing your hair permanently. But yeah, for me, expensive hair products have never had much better results than the cheaper stuff, to be honest. Another thing that was keeping me broke is something I still see with other guys all the time today. Feeling like I needed a shoe for every possible occasion. So like a wedding shoe, an office shoe, a night out shoe, casual sneakers, smart casual sneakers, hiking shoes, running trainers, various boots of different colours. At one point, I must have had over 20 pairs of footwear, and who's got the time to wear that many? I certainly didn't. Look, if you actually find yourself involved in all these different kinds of occasions on a regular basis, then yes, it's probably worth it for you to buy yourself the right shoes. But I was buying shoes for occasions or activities that I would only do once or twice. As I've slimmed down my collection over the past few years, I've realised that some shoes can cover many different occasions. A good example is my Paraboot Michaels. I use them for work, weddings, nights out, and for casual wear. That's allowed me to sell off loads of unused shoes and freed up a ton of space as well. I also can't remember the last time I bought a pair of sneakers. I just have some low tops and high tops now, and they cover most of my casual outfits. So if you're looking to save money, then shoes might be the place to start. Alright, final point. In the same line of thinking as that last point, I used to waste so much money buying multiples of one thing. Prime example of this was when H&M made these faded and distressed sweatshirts like 10 years ago. They had a similar look to what Fear of God were putting out at the time, so I was obsessed with them. Instead of just buying one and being happy, I bought every single colour, of which there were like 5 or 6. I remember the cashier in H&M giving me a funny look when I went up to buy all of them. And I don't blame her. Why did I need the same sweater in every colour? I kind of understand buying multiples of the same thing if it's like a shirt for work or a white t-shirt that's going to go with everything. But I've done it with sweaters, jeans, hoodies, really bulky things that cost a decent amount and took up so much space. And I always ended up only wearing my one favourite colour anyway, so the rest were a total waste. Alright, I feel like I could go on with more things that kept me broke, but I'll leave it there for now. Does this feel familiar to you guys, or is there anything else you'd add to the list? Do let me know in the comments. But anyway, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Ta-ra.